Brother, 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 brother,
Oh, yeah.
brother.
Welcome back to another episode of the Deep Six Wrestling Podcast. It is Friday, July 15th, and we're back with another episode of the Impact Power Hour. I'm Ryan.
I'm Angelo.
And yeah, this was the last of the Louisville shows, the Georgia shows that they taped after Against All Odds. I think that this felt like the beginning of a few stories and the ending of a few other stories. So I felt like this was a good, I guess, transition episode.
This was a good segue into what's coming next for Impact.
Yeah, I felt like this was a perfect way to kind of wrap up a few of the things from, I guess, Slammiversary Against All Odds, and transition us to the next set of shows. We've got, I believe, Louisville tonight and tomorrow for tapings, and then that will take us to Chicago for Emergence in August. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out. They've hyped up a lot of matches that they're going to be taping tonight and tomorrow. They've given away one debut with Kushita debuting against, and he's going to be facing Rich Swann at those tapings. So that should be interesting. Enough about that. We're going to go right into our BTI from this week before the Impact. For those who don't watch regularly or don't listen to this regularly, it's the pre-show that is there weekly, but we only care about the match, really. And that was Bupinder versus the hometown boy himself, Johnny Swinger. Swinger is super over in these Atlanta shows that he's had.
He is way over. I mean, if you're watching Impact Wrestling like on the weekly product, you got to be a fan of Johnny Swinger.
Oh, absolutely. Him and Zicky the other day faced off against Terus and Crazy Steve in a digital media match that was posted this week, and the crowd was loving these two. And they were really, really big fans of Swinger for this match as well. Bupinder, I think, again, we've said it numerous times. I did not know who this man was before he showed up on Impact, but every time he shows up and has a match, I feel like he's impressive. For somebody who had no knowledge of, don't know his wrestling background really, he just seems like he gets wrestling. And I think he's got a unique package about him.
Yeah, I will say, most of the people that we see come back into Impact or come to Impact for the first time usually come from somewhere else.
Yeah.
These days, like, there's very few exceptions, and Bupinder's one of them. But even, like, Zicky Dice, like, he had a history in NWA, and, Swinger's been around since the 90s. Like, most of these wrestlers come from somewhere before they are at Impact at this stage of their career. And they use it as a place to maybe rebound or just kind of grow their character, or they've been with Impact since the glory days of 2010 or 2012, 2013, and they've still been sticking around like Crazy Steve. So Bupinder's not any of those. We don't know what he did before. I'm sure he probably has a history, but I mean, he's been impressive. This is the first time we've seen him on television this past few months. So we've liked what we've seen.
Yeah. This was hyped up as a match that was going to be like a number one contendership match for the digital media title that Brian Myers currently holds. As last week, he said that, you guys face each other and
thin the herd.
We'll thin the herd. We'll figure things out next week when that happens. this was probably the most offense we've seen Swinger get.
Oh, 100%. This is the most offense I've seen him ever.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, besides watching some YouTube highlights of him from, like, the 90s,
Yeah.
there's literally, like, nothing from Impact Wrestling that he's done. Has he had, like, multiple moves? But, when I guess they, tell him to have an offense, naturally he goes to classic, 80s, 90s moves, like the double axe handle.
Yes.
And, some other greats, like the headbutt to the groin.
Yes.
Those are the classics of the Federation era.
Yeah, the old territory days.
Yeah.
I thought it was great that commentary kept on referring to when the crowd was reacting to him. They're like, oh, he's a veteran of this territory. He used to be the biggest star of the Georgia territories.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Whatever the commentary wants to say today.
Yeah. Johnny Swinger does not end up winning this match. Bupinder does.
Even
Zicky
though it goes
Dice,
for like 6 minutes,
yeah,
Zicky hit an excellent suplex on the back.
Yeah.
When the ref was distracted there, and Zicky Dice is supposed to be the guy that doesn't know how to wrestle.
Yeah.
So he did pretty good there. So it looks like the dungeon is teaching these guys a little bit of something.
Yeah, I mean, he did say last week to Brian Myers that he's learned more from the dungeon than he ever did with the learning tree. So
yeah,
so far,
specifically say about wrestling though.
Yeah, that is true. But yeah, considering Zicky Dice was not the opponent here, he did take a few bumps. Got bumped or got hit by Bupinder, and then right at the end took a bump from Swinger. But Swinger ends up losing to Bupinder via the gargoyle spear, as they call it, where he's perched up on the middle rope. And yeah, Bupinder has thinned the herd in the digital media division.
Yeah, or so we thought. So.
Yeah. This would take us to our main show, and the main show starts with a rundown of, as always, the video package from last week.
I should interrupt, Ryan. Actually, the Iceman intel was slightly important today.
Yes, that is true.
And we basically get into it at the beginning of the show, but the Iceman intel was, no one's seen or heard from Eric Young.
Yeah.
Before his match, everyone showed up today except Eric Young. So we go into, what is the top of the show, which is going to be Violent by Design versus Motor City Machine Guns and Josh Alexander. And we do get to see that it's just Doring and Cody Deaner standing there together without Eric Young for a bit. And they haven't seen him either. You can take it from here.
Yeah, Deaner's looking a little frustrated. He's like, I know, like, we get, like, this little segment, like, from the gorilla position, basically, of Deaner talking to Joe and saying, hey, like, I don't know where Eric is. You don't know where Eric is. We haven't seen him. We haven't seen him since last week. I don't know if this is a test, but, like, we need to go out there. Our match is about to begin. And we'll see what happens. Their music plays. They go out there, and then there's like a pause, and then it goes right into the Motor City Machine Guns music. So no Eric Young comes out. Motor City Machine Guns come out. Josh Alexander comes out. Deaner and Joe talk a little bit, and then Deaner says he'll start the match. Deaner gets in there. Chris Saban gets in there, and then right as the bell rings, Violent by Design's music plays again, and out comes Eric Young. He does his whole entrance, and then they have to restart the match.
Yeah. But what's important here is he's out here by himself. He said that, what's the actual quote? Everything not revolves around me, but,
Yeah, it's this world doesn't belong to them, it belongs to me. That's what he said last week.
Yeah, versus it used to be us.
Yeah.
Me. So he comes out by himself, his own entrance. So
yeah. He's also Deaner and Joe have matching gear, the white gear, and Eric's just in his yellow gear.
Yeah, little subtle things.
Yeah. He doesn't say a word to Deaner or Joe as he gets into the corner. And basically remains the story for most of this match. Is Eric is just there at ringside. He's not He's not doing his normal yelling at the fans. He's not yelling to Diener to hype him up or Joe to hype him up. He's just there. And I think we saw that this non-unified version of Violent by Design is not the strongest, because it felt like Motor City Machine Guns and Josh just had the upper hand throughout this entire match.
Oh, yeah, definitely. There was, the moment, I think, where Eric Young and Josh Alexander kind of butted heads and, like,
yes.
This is the first time we've, like, stared each other down in a match since Slammiversary. So that was a cool moment. But otherwise, yeah, it was pretty much the good guys getting the upper hand most of the way.
Yeah, the only real time that I'd say Eric Young really interacted much with the rest of Violent by Design, Diener and Joe were taking out the other members of the opponent, the team that, the guys who actually weren't in the match currently, and this allowed Eric Young to get a cheap shot in. And then at the end of the match, Eric Young gets into the ring to try to, I guess, make a save, but not really make the save. He kind of just is out there attacking Josh, while Diener is in a compromising position, while Shelley is trying to tap him out. And this leads to Eric Young getting put in the ankle lock by Josh. And Diener taps, and then Eric taps. And then Eric Young would leave by himself, as they pan to show Motor City Machine Guns and Josh celebrating their win.
I think what's important here, Ryan, is that the record books are going to show that Cody Diener lost the match.
Yes,
not Eric Young. His tap out was the first one that was official. So yeah. And commentary did note that.
Yeah. And I mean, even if Eric Young did tap out first, wouldn't have mattered. He wasn't the legal man.
Yeah.
Still. The next story that happens is Chris Saban gets the belt to go hand it over to Josh, and he holds it in the corner, and he's just staring at it and smiling. And he goes to hand it to Josh. As Josh grabs it, Chris doesn't want to let it go. And the whole time, Alex Shelley is also looking at the belt. And this would be addressed later in the show.
It's that mystical power of touching, a golden belt.
Oh, yeah. It's what everybody wants. Everybody wants the world title.
What everyone chases.
Yeah. I thought this was a good way to kick off the show. It was an interesting choice, I think, when they originally said it. Because normally you don't have tag matches kick off the show, especially like a multi-man tag match, like a 6-man or 8-man match or anything like that. But I thought this was a good choice. We got some good stories to move forward, as well as create some new stories going forward. So I thought this was a good way to start off the show.
Yeah, I think he's like we're getting a lot of it from Impact, a lot of these 8-man, 10-man, 6-man tag matches. But it's okay because it's all faction-based.
Yeah.
For the most part, Violent by Design is a faction, Honor No More is a faction, Bullet Club is a faction. So I like that aspect of it versus just kind of the other company where it's all 10 women on the women's roster, 5v5, leading up to the pay-per-view. So I think it made sense here as an opener. It kind of clears the air with this storyline and opens up a new chapter. So
yeah, absolutely. This would take us into the normal rundown of the other matches that are going to happen, and then we get right into it with a vignette for Killer Kelly again. Different one this time. Still a bit confusing on what the character direction is going to be, as she's in that creepy, sketchy hotel room that apparently still allows you to get drinks at, and good drinks and not something from a mini bar.
Yeah, I want to.
Yeah, I want to know what roadside motel
Yeah.
has a functioning bar that you can go and get mixed drinks at.
Yeah. Please let us know.
Yeah. And then it ends with her peering through a peephole and watching people outside, and her looking at papers and saying that she's going to strike when things work out for her and when she thinks the time is right.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know about you, but I kind of interpreted that like her peeping into other people wasn't just like the street, but it was like maybe like the backstage area of Impact.
Yeah.
That's how I interpreted it. Like she's like knocking on the door, basically.
Yeah.
Of coming back.
Yeah, I think with that, and also her talking about how, she's waiting for the perfect moment to debut, I think is kind of it works well with this whole story that's come out that like she's been under contract with Impact since the pandemic, since 2020. It's just she's from Portugal, so travel stuff has been an issue.
Yeah.
But now, like, she's been in America for a few months now, even before these vignettes started to appear. So kind of this whole story of, she's been waiting for the perfect time. Impact's been waiting for the perfect time to debut her. And I guess the time is growing closer and closer.
Yes, indeed.
This would go right into our next match. It is Steve Macklin versus the Cowboy, James Storm. Commentary in this match kept on referring to Macklin as the mercenary Steve Macklin. I don't remember them ever really saying this as his character before, but I guess this is going to be his new character, or character development, I guess, is that he's kind of a gun for hire type person. That's why he's with Moose.
That's what heel Morrissey was.
Yeah.
In a way. So now that fills that void of just like he's the heel that you can kind of stick places.
Yeah. Which I think it works well for. Given his, his military background. I feel like it fits that role a little bit more. As well as like, was it the Rich Swann, or was it Rich Swann or Trey? It was Trey during his X Division run, title run, where like he kidnapped Trey and was like, like torturing him and stuff. I feel like that would have been the better part to go with this mercenary gimmick. But I do think that this is a good character development where you can hire him out, and he'll start taking names.
And this is all too under the assumption that like Moose is, quote unquote, paid him to interfere. We'll maybe learn about it more later on, but
also, commentary points out that the last time we had seen James Storm before he returned the last few weeks and months was during his feud with Moose, and Moose had taken him out of action. So, that there goes why he was trying to knock on Moose's door and show up. I thought this was a really good match. I think Macklin and Storm worked out well together. We had talked about, was Macklin going to take a pin here to further the story of James Storm versus Moose? But no.
No, we get the other way around. They have a nice like hoss match, two bigger men in the industry, and there was a hurricane off the top rope. Thanks, James Storm.
Yeah,
but
I
was a little surprised at the outcome because I wasn't sure the direction of James Storm going forward. But he doesn't necessarily need a win. They mentioned he was the second most decorated wrestler in Impact history.
Yeah,
in terms of the belts he's held, it seems like 14 tag titles and then the world title. So.
Yeah. Yeah, but, I mean, he's part of two of the most decorated tag teams of all time, I'd say, in America's Most Wanted and Beer Money.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's been everywhere. And Macklin still hasn't touched gold yet, or held gold in Impact. But I do think that this was smart, giving Macklin the win. Because I feel like the last few times we've seen Macklin out there in big matches, he hasn't gotten the wins. Either it's been a multi-man match and he can avoid being pinned, or he does get pinned, like his X Division runs, where he finally looked like he was gonna get the title from Trey. Nope, he lost.
Yeah, which I was okay with him not being X
Yeah,
champ.
yeah, he doesn't really fit the X Division mold.
Right. So I mean, yeah, him getting the win over James Storm, I would imagine we're not going to see much of James Storm going forward unless it's like somehow Moose wants to show up on an Impact show and they have a one-off match. But
yeah.
But yeah, I'd expect James Storm to be done. We know Chris Harris is done. So now this kind of moves us to the next potential feud. The lights go out after the win, and Sami Callihan comes out.
Yeah, but we finally have a smart wrestler, because when the lights go out, Macklin also moves because he knows what's coming, and Macklin goes to the top of the entrance ramp, and Sami Callihan's in the middle of the ring with his bat, and he avoids it because he had moved.
Big brain moves from Rutherford, New Jersey.
Yeah. I mean, this is smart. This is something you don't normally see. The lights go out and it's like the wrestlers freeze. They don't know what the fuck's going on, even though you know what's going on most of the time.
Maybe Satnam Singh was going to come out.
Oh man,
no, but yeah, you're right. Like
the lights would have had to have been out a little longer than that for Satnam.
Yeah, to run down the ring.
Yeah,
yeah, quite possibly. But I will say it is a great year for Rutherford wrestlers. Morgan, she's East Rutherford, but she won the title.
Yeah.
The big old WWE, and now Macklin is, his star is rising, has a win over Jay White via, multi-man match, but and then have a nice win here. Looks like a guy that could be a world champion in the next year or two, depending on, how Impact continues to book him.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we definitely didn't see coming when he first signed in Impact.
No, we weren't so much fans, I think, when he signed, but I think he's like come to his own form now.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of similar to Morrissey, like he's kind of finding his way now.
Yeah, absolutely. And he again, in ring, he just impresses almost every time he's out there.
Yeah. I think my fear was I was afraid that like he was being built as an undefeated guy and then lost to Trey, and then like where does it go from there? And I think it's been pretty successful.
Yeah.
He hasn't had the Vladimir Kozlov rotation where undefeated for months and then never see him again after a loss.
Yeah, it was more of, he lost to Trey, but his star rose because we were like, yeah, he doesn't fit the X division. He fits the bigger division, the big boys.
Exactly. So,
and like we talked about, he does technically have a win over Jay White via pinning Saban, and he didn't look out of place in that match. I thought he worked that match very well. He fits in really well with almost anybody he's worked with so far. So,
it's a good scoop by Impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we originally thought it was just, they're picking up Deanna's boyfriend, now fiance, just to keep her happy. But really, he's shown that he's his own man and he can kill it.
Yeah, yes, sir.
After this, we get our Ric Flair moment of the week.
Apparently, this is a thing now.
Yeah, in the lead up to Ric Flair's final match, we're getting a Impact moment of the week, but it's gonna be a Ric Flair thing,
and no, this one wasn't Jay Lethal and Ric Flair yelling at each other.
So I thought that's what was gonna happen when commentary says, and now for speaking of crazy, because they're talking about Sami Callihan. Here's a crazy moment. With Ric Flair, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be the woo off. Nope,
exactly. That was absurd, but I mean, this was still pretty absurd too. Pretty much everything Ric Flair did in TNA was pretty absurd because he was a 60-something-year-old man.
Yes,
bleeding profusely with Hulk Hogan and Sting and Mick Foley. So Everything
Yeah.
was kind of absurd.
Yeah. So originally, I don't remember when they said this was, but it was, I guess, Team Hogan versus Team Flair in a cage. And we've got Jeff Hardy doing Jeff Hardy things on top of the cage.
Yeah, it was 2010 lockdown.
Okay. And then all of a sudden, you hear Ric Flair's music come, and he runs out to the ring, and he gets into the cage and starts hitting moves on people. And then he sees Abyss, who is wearing...
I think he's wearing Hulk Hogan's Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame ring, yeah. Because Hulk Hogan apparently called Abyss a Hall of Famer. And Ric Flair doesn't like that, so he starts trying to rip it off him. But apparently it fit too well.
Yeah.
It's just stuck on there. So he starts biting it off. And then Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff show up. And Eric Bischoff pulls out some brass knuckles, and he looks like he's going to give them to Flair, but he gives them to Hogan. And Hogan just clocks Ric Flair immediately with them. And he goes down, and he comes back up, and he's just bleeding.
Right.
And he just starts getting wailed on with the brass knuckles over and over again. Before finally doing a Flair flop into some thumbtacks.
A backwards Flair flop into thumbtacks. Unbelievable stuff. Can't pay me enough to do that.
That was probably the highlight of Ric Flair's TNA run. Just seeing Ric Flair taking a Flair flop into thumbtack.
No, what I think is really like the funniest thing of this is like this was total WCW 2.0 like at its peak. Like there was a 5v5 match with some great talents in it, and it gets all overshadowed by Hogan and Ric Flair just doing their thing in the ring, and Flair.
Yeah, neither of them were legal men.
No, they weren't.
Come out
like,
into the middle of this match.
It was their team, right? And then the match just ends out of nowhere, like real quick, when like Abyss Black Hole slams Desmond Wolfe like on the side of the camera. Like, just like we got to finish it up. Pay per view is over. Like, I'm very WCW-esque.
Yeah. Absolutely wild stuff. I don't know how you top that for next week's Flair
you
moment.
Think the over-under on seconds that Ric Flair starts bleeding in his match based on what we saw today.
I mean, if he's not bleeding in his final match, I'd be shocked.
Oh, he's 100% bleeding in his final match. But
I would say it depends because we don't know who this person is that he's facing. Like,
but literally that first punch, and he's gonna bleed.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
There was a bar. Remember that story? There was a bar fight a few years ago. Ric Flair got in.
Yes,
and he was like bloody with a because the dude's head is a topographical map.
Yeah,
with blood vessels just waiting to burst.
Yeah, the amount of times this man has used a blade or anything. Right now, you use the tip of your fingernail, and you've got to worry about his whole brain hemorrhaging.
Yeah, my hero.
After this, we are backstage, and Chris Saban and Alex Shelley have gone to Scott D'Amore's office to try to meet up with Scott because Chris Saban, he claims he thinks that if Scott's still thinking about who needs to be the next number one contender for Josh's belt, he should take into consideration that Chris Saban helped Josh rise. And even gave him the idea of doing option C with the X Division belt. So you should take that into consideration. And we've got Scott doing his best Shane Douglas impersonation, as he says, that he looked out there and he saw what Saban was looking at when he held the belt. And he says that he was jonesing for the gold.
Jonesing for the gold. That's what it's all about.
And he says they would take that into consideration, but he's also going to take in consideration what that Alex Shelley won the match for his team, and even was staring at the belt. So next week is Gun versus Gun to determine
Billy Gunn versus Austin Gunn
versus Colton Gunn versus versus the Motor City Machine Gun versus Bart Gunn
versus Bart Gunn. Give me a break.
Now it's going to be Chris Saban versus Alex Shelley, and the winner will be Josh Alexander's opponent at Emergence. This should be a really good match. The two are very happy about this. They say they're going to run it back one more time. And yeah, I don't know who you have win. As we talked about last week, I think that Chris Saban has already faced Josh, not for this title, but for the X Division title. We haven't seen Alex Shelley go for any of the titles since whenever he's been back, other than the tag team title. So I think it would be a unique opportunity to have Shelley go for the gold, picking up a big I'd say upset victory over Chris Saban.
Yeah, I don't think this match is going to go as smooth as the Dax versus Cash match that we saw a few months ago in AEW.
No.
I think Alex Shelley is going to do some dirty stuff and pull out a win here and set up a nice feud going into the next pay-per-view.
I'd be perfectly fine with that. They keep on throughout this whole time when this whole segment, Shelley keeps on kind of rolling his eyes whenever Chris Saban is saying things, and as Chris Saban talks about, hey, I'm one of the most decorated guys in Impact. I helped Josh rise up to the star he is.
Yeah, because realistically, they both are the most decorated guys in Impact. Like, the world title win, but they both held a lot of tag titles together.
Yeah. So yeah, it'd be interesting. I don't, as you just point out, Chris Saban has won the world title before. Alex Shelley has not, to my knowledge, won the world title before. So he might be jonesing for the gold a little bit harder.
Yeah, I think so.
This would take us to the feud that has lasted the longest, I believe, in Impact at this point. Chelsea Green versus Mickie James finally having their one-on-one match.
And a surprise here on an Impact episode.
Yeah. Just kind of thrown in. No stakes involved. Just nobody's allowed at ringside for this match. And the match starts off with Chelsea kissing Mickie. And then Mickie doing her over-exaggerated kiss that she did to Trish Stratus. Commentary even referring to this having Trish Stratus and Mickie James vibes all over again. The crowd chanting "That was hot" as this happens. And yeah, I mean, commentary and everybody involved in this feud has talked about Chelsea and Mickie's goals and how big their friendship was, how they've run down ideas in other companies to work together. With Chelsea talking about how originally her and Mickie pitched this idea of Mickie doing like the Mickie and Trish story on the main roster, but kept on getting it declined. Now they're able to do it here, and Chelsea's played this crazy friend role pretty well. It's just the story has gotten so convoluted that even the commentators can't keep the story straight. With them talking about how mainly this was Tom talking about how Mickie claimed she was going to give Chelsea a title match, but Chelsea was injured throughout her title reign and was not cleared for action by Impact doctors, even though the injury was faked. And like that storyline has been confirmed that like it was a fake injury. Like she said it over and over again that she faked the injury. So is this them saying that Impact doctors thought the injury was real?
Well, knowing that the Impact doctor is also the guy that sells merch.
That's true. That's true. He might just be like, hey, do you want to wrestle tonight? Nah, I want to wear a cast. Okay, you're not cleared to wrestle anymore. I'm going to go out there and try to get some tips.
There you go.
Um, yeah. Also, commentary talking about how, the last time we saw, or when Mickie returned, she was a special guest enforcer, and according to Tom again, she was just doing her job the whole time. Even though this is probably the most logical a heel announcer's ever been, where Matt Raywall is just like, she literally got in there and prevented Chelsea from winning and gave the belt to Mia so Mia could win, which is true.
Yeah.
Mickie let her emotions get the best of her, prevented Deonna and Chelsea from winning numerous times in this match, and Tasha, and then helped Mia get the win. Or not Mia, Jordan get the win.
But, yeah.
But yeah. Weird things. I think, as you pointed out, I was a little. I thought this match lasted a little too long, but you pointed out, and I think at the point that you pointed it out, I wasn't at the point where they further along the story, but this did feel like a final nail into this story for at least a little bit.
Yeah. Because I guess, at the end of the match, usually with a screwy finish. So, we could talk about Chelsea wins by, she tried once pulling the tights of Mickie to get the roll-up win, but the ref saw that. The ref didn't see, though, a second time where Chelsea had her legs on the rope.
Yeah.
That's how she pinned Mickie James. So, yeah, it's like a screwy finish, but later on the show, it does feel like this is the end for now. It's not like Mickey's going to be like, next week we got to fight type of thing. So, but yeah, the match was long, but for me, I was looking at it as this is going to be like the blow off to the feud, really.
Yeah.
Besides that mixed tag match that they had, the multiverse, this was like really their only chance against each other in a ring in a match. And it was fine. I agree with you. You said it was a little sloppy, and I think there's some points it was, which is weird because you would think they've been planning this for years. It sounds like Trish versus Mickie 2 feud basically. So you would think the match would be a little cleaner, but things happen. It was still a really good match. Mickie James got most of her signature moves in, and this made Chelsea look the best she's ever looked, honestly, since she's been attacked. So I was, I guess happy about that for the sense of she's the one that's going to be staying. Yeah. So make her look good, make her beat Jordynne Grace or be a contender for Jordynne Grace down the road.
Yeah, I also thought it was interesting. There was some unique spots in this match. Most notably, I'd say, was the stomp being used as a Chelsea's finisher for this. She kept on going for not necessarily the same stomp that Seth Rollins or Britt Baker uses, where it's like the back of the head and neck, but square on the back, which I don't remember her really using before this match.
That's true.
So I thought that was cool. I also thought it was a pretty cool finish or move, unique, where Chelsea was on the ground. Mickie was looking like she was going to get down to attack her, but Chelsea kicked at one of her legs and then raised her knee so that when Mickie fell from it, she put all the impact on from her face and neck to Chelsea's knee. I thought that was a good move as well. But yeah, Chelsea wins. I've said it numerous times that I think the pulling of the tights as a no count is silly. This was even sillier, I thought, because it was the issue was that Mickie was wearing a skirt around her gear,
right? And
that's what was pulled up.
So that's not really any leverage.
Right. Yeah. Right. It wasn't like she was grabbing the tights. It was she put her arm around Mickie and it moved the skirt up. So I thought that was a little silly. But yeah, I think the right person won. And now that the way this ended, you could run it back in the future if Mickie comes back again.
Yeah, for sure. That definitely leaves the door open. But I think it closes a little bit for now.
Yes. Um, this would go on to our next backstage segment. Taya and Rosemary are making their secret mission to the undead realm happen.
This is wild stuff.
Yeah, so Taya shows up. She's late because she was trying to pick out the perfect outfit so that she wouldn't seem out of place. They go to the undead realm, and Rosemary gives some rules. She says, "Don't go towards the light. There's no directions. Just follow me, and we're gonna find Havoc and get out as quickly as possible." They get into the undead realm, and Taya immediately starts doing the opposite of what Rosemary had told her. She's looking for directions. She's freaking out over every sound that's being made. And then there's a white glow in the distance, and Taya immediately goes towards it as Rosemary is not looking. Taya goes into this light, and it takes her to a new area where it's, as she calls it, a clean slate. And she starts pretending they're coming up with ideas on how to design it. And Havoc shows up. And then we go back to Rosemary, who sees the light, and she goes in there after Valkyrie and bumps into Havoc too. And Taya says, "Hey, now that we're all here, Rosemary, I'd like to introduce you to Jessica." So it seems like we're getting another version of the Susan, Sue Young gimmick of, we're just going to have a different we're just going to use a different name for you.
I guess so. Unless they snap her out of it sometime soon.
Yeah.
And doesn't drag on for 2 years or whatever.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, whatever the Sue Young gimmick was. Whatever. Where is she? She
was pregnant. Yeah, she was pregnant. I think she had a kid. I'm not sure if she's had the kid yet or not. She looked like she was very close to having a kid when we last saw her.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if she comes back, that'd be cool. But
yeah,
understand if not.
Yeah. So yeah, interesting development in this. Again, don't know where this goes. Hopefully it's not the same thing as like the Susie gimmick where she doesn't know how to wrestle and doesn't want to wrestle.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, we do noticeably see that this is a different version of Havoc. She's got pink hair now. She's smiling.
This doesn't like really progress the the Knockouts tag titles though.
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
No.
They're just gonna take this title with them in this wilderness storyline of the Dark Realm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. After this, we have Bupinder confronting Brian Myers as Brian Myers is giving social media advice to some random guy.
Yeah. I thought this was a little awkward.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie. Bupinder's just like, you saw that? I won. Now I want that title match. When are we gonna do it?
Yeah. Promos are still not his smoothest, or like backstage segments are still not his smoothest, but hopefully they develop.
Yeah, sure.
Because if you're like an indie person or like if that's your thing before coming here or coming to TV, that's not something that you normally do all the time. Is promo or like backstage segments.
Yeah, stuff. Absolutely. And I think unfortunately most people are going to look not great going against Brian Myers because his promo skills are really good.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been in WWE for a long time and he has his own school, so he just feels so natural. Him and Cardona are both very natural.
Yeah.
At their promos, so
yeah,
it just didn't feel like that for Bupinder, and he'll get there. He's young.
Yeah. But Brian Myers says, "Hey, I said this was a thinning of the herd match. He's thinning the herd, but there's still a lot of people who want to get this title. And I don't think you're ready. Come back to me when you get a blue check mark."
Yeah. So this. I gotta verify if Bupinder like has a Twitter or not or something, because this would be kind of fun, right? Like, Bupinder's campaign to the Digital Media Championship title.
Absolutely, I think that makes it. Yeah, I think that gives it a good feel. Again, continues this how seriously Brian Myers takes this this title, and how that was the big issue that him and Cardona had with Rich Swann, was that he didn't have social media. So how can you be a digital media champion if you're not going to be promoting it on digital media like they would? And now Brian Myers with the title is like, hey, I don't want any, low quality opponents. I need people who are verified.
Yeah. I know. So I hope this leads to next week. We watch Bupinder, recording some TikToks backstage or something.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
After this, we get Tenille Dashwood versus Masha Slamovich, and this was just a squash match. I'm not going to go too much into this.
Yeah, that's fine. There's some dissension, I think, within the influence.
Yes.
Clearly going on here. I guess this writes off Tenille for a little bit because, Havoc we didn't see for a long time. We saw her today. But just like next week, here's Havoc, so I wouldn't expect next week, here's Tenille. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. And same thing, that I think this gives Madison Rayne her exit potentially.
Yeah.
And then Giselle Shaw, I don't know, is just going to pick up the pieces and eventually face Masha Slamovich at some point.
I don't know. Commentary talks about how Masha the whole time kept her eyes on Madison. I think that's the next step.
Yeah,
is her, and that's how you, like you said, they write off Madison through that. This whole thing has been, according to Giselle, when Tenille got the picture of herself with the blood on it, Giselle claimed that Masha's obsessed with her and trying to get to her. So I mean, I feel like that would be a pay-per-view match, I'd assume, or like an Impact Plus event match. Yeah, most likely. So I could see that at Emergence happening.
Yeah, if it happens in the past, this Masha Slamovich stuff has been very dragged out. So
yeah, I feel like
more Slammiversary next year.
Oh God. Yeah, I mean it depends. I don't know who else would be willing to side with Giselle at this point. Now that they've seen Alicia and now Tenille and possibly Madison Rayne, all who were surrounded by Masha. Or not Masha, by Giselle, being targeted by Masha. So, who knows?
Who knows?
After this, Mike Bailey's backstage, and he says that he's got his eyes set on Diener. After Diener attacked him and Alan Angels with Joe Doring last week after their match. He said that if Diener wanted a chance at this title, one of the most prestigious titles in all of wrestling, one of the best histories in Impact, all he needed to do was ask, and next week he will defend the title against Diener.
He doesn't seem deserving necessarily, but this will be fun, I think.
Yeah. I think this will again further the Violent by Design storyline, but also it is a known quantity for Mike Bailey to get a win against.
Yeah, absolutely. He's an established Impact guy, Cody Diener. So yeah, that's a good match.
Yeah. After this, Gia runs into Mickie, and Mickie has her gear, has her luggage. She's walking off. Gia asks where you're going. She's going. And Mickie says, I'm going home, Gia.
I'm going home.
Yeah. Cue the sad music. Cue the rain.
World's smallest violin.
Yeah. And this would send us to our main event. It is Bullet Club versus Honor No More. Honor No More coming out. And as they come out, they're making their way into the ring.
I forgot this was the main event.
Yeah,
got here because usually Honor No More is on the show multiple times before the end of the night.
Yeah, or Bullet Club's on it too.
Or Bullet Club, right. So they kept them completely off the show, which probably was a good thing. There's a lot going on, a lot of storylines starting and ending. But yeah, it was here, don't forget, guys, Bullet Club and Honor No More, the two biggest factions.
Yeah. So as Honor No More is making their way into the ring, Heath comes out from behind, hits his finisher on Vincent, and then runs away.
So I guess Vince is just like, oh, I'm hurt now. I got to go backstage. I won't hang out for this match.
I'm gonna hang out with PCO.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's slowly taking down the numbers of the people around Honor No More here. But there's still one person at ringside that Heath did not take out, and that was Maria Kanellis, and that would come back to haunt Bullet Club here. As I thought this was a fun match. I don't know if it was really main event quality. I don't think it was this.
They could have flipped the opening and the ending.
Yeah, I also didn't think that this was going to be like this was the strongest match that these teams have had together. This felt very rushed.
I think there was some intentional saving going on because we're expecting now, based on the finish of the match, that we're going to see the Good Brothers versus Honor No More for the belts.
Yeah.
So I think there was like some intentionality with that. Like Chris Bay was really the ring general in this, and then Carl Anderson got the hot tag at one point.
Yeah.
So again, I think that was all intentional with the idea that we're going to see kind of like the bigger, better match at Emergence.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that keeping these guys locked together for another month makes sense. They're the two largest groups at this point in the company.
It gives Ace Austin something new to do, like as a face now. Or,
it's
tweener, really.
I was gonna say it's very odd seeing Bullet Club as baby faces.
Yeah, I guess they're tweeners. That's really, their role, because they're even commentary said there's no, what do they say, like there's no angels in the ring or something like that.
Yeah. That's totally true. You know, the Bullet Club, they've run roughshod in any company that they're in. But they're like the cool heels, and the crowds really like them. Whereas the crowd, I'd say this is probably one of the less split crowds on Honor No More. I felt like the crowds were very against Honor No More at these Georgia shows compared to like the Philly show having some split.
Yeah, well, I think the Philly show is hard to compare because Ring of Honor is a more Northeast territory.
That's fair.
So Georgia doesn't care about Ring of Honor in the same sense that like the crowd that we saw does.
Yeah. Honor No More ends up picking up the win, pinning Luke Gallows of all people.
Gallows got low blowed by Maria.
Yep.
And is just standing there like helplessly while Carl Anderson's eating finishers left and right.
Yeah.
And then it's his turn to eat some finishers from everyone, from Eddie Edwards to Kenny King.
And then eating the Aurora Borealis, I think it was called the Frog Splash by Matt Taven. And Matt Taven, one half of the OG Kingdom, the OGK, does pin the current tag champs. I thought this was a pretty good show. As we said, it felt like a good transitional show.
Yeah, overall, a really good show with good wrestling as well. So it wasn't all like backstage stuff. It was, some good matches that kind of started new feuds, ended feuds, and overall a really good Impact episode.
Yeah. Next week they haven't given us like too much. It's not like this week they'd given us basically the entire card. Whereas next week we have 3 matches have been announced. We've got Diener versus Mike Bailey for the X Division Championship. Deanna and Chelsea versus Mia Yim and Jordan Grace. And then Alex Shelley versus Chris Saban is the main event for the number 1 contendership for the world title, which will happen at Emergence. So I'm sure there'll be some other stuff that gets thrown in there. They have announced a lot of matches for the tapings.
Have these shows been taped yet?
No, they happen tonight and I believe tomorrow.
Okay, so I will stay away from spoilers because I am very excited for this main event coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just trying to see, like, because I believe they announced, they've announced during the tapings, there's going to be Rich Swann versus Kushita. They've also announced Matt Taven and Mike Bennett versus Ace Austin and Chris Bay.
Rich Swann versus Kushita is pretty interesting because Kushita's debut, is he just a one-off, or is it like Rich Swann gonna kind of break him in?
Yeah, I'm not sure. They've also, so that's happening on tonight's tapings, all those matches. And then Saturday's matches, we've got Mike Bailey versus Rocky Romero in another title defense, which I guess it says that he's going to retain against Diener unless he's doing 2-on-1 night during the tapings.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then they've also announced Violent by Design versus Mercy Machine Guns and PCO versus Doc Gallows.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Big Hoss fight.
Yeah.
I will say, so like for Impact, because I'm trying to think about like when I was a kid going into the WWE like shows, whether they were live events or tapings. Like if they were tapings, there was usually like a dark match at the end of the show, and they could announce that, like something that wouldn't make sense to put on TV, like John Cena versus CM Punk versus R-Truth in a triple threat world title match. Like that didn't progress storyline because John Cena was going to still win or whatever, whoever's the champ. So like Impact, I guess, doesn't have that luxury, so that's why they're like they have to announce like what their actual card is to get people to come in.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, like we went because it was Impact. We were going to go no matter what. But as a wrestling show, kind of anything that you promote, people want to kind of know what they're going to go see beforehand. Yeah. So for WWE, it's like, like seeing that triple threat world title match, even though it's not on TV, like that's a huge match. That's really cool. Like Impact doesn't do that. They don't really have the roster for it. Nor does it make sense in 2022 to have like Josh Alexander like double work and have like Alexander versus Moose to end the night. Like no, I don't know if people want to be honest.
Yeah.
It's a different world now. So yeah, they announced their card, even though like TV hasn't said what's going on. And like you just said, like that kind of means now Josh Alexander is not gonna lose the Diener, or not Josh. I mean Mike Bailey's not gonna lose the Diener. Not like we expected that, but just to keep along with it, it's like I guess he must retain and then go to the next match.
Yeah. But I guess we can also write off that Alex Shelley and Chris Saban are going to go heel, or one of them's going to go heel if they're tag teaming the next night together.
Right. That's what, stuff like that too is like, I don't know. I mean, card subject to change, right?
Yeah.
I think if people bought tickets for both nights and they see like a heel turn on Motor City Machine Guns, I don't think they'll be mad that they don't get to see them as a tag team the next night. Like if it leads to something even cooler for the next show, then so be it. But, yeah.
I would say the one interesting thing is that no matches announced for Josh, no match announced for Moose, Sammy, Macklin.
I don't think Sammy's gonna wrestle till the pay-per-view.
That's fair. And as we talked about, the Knockouts tag titles aren't anybody from that division other than Deanna and Chelsea, since they seem that they want to go for those belts.
Yeah, but those belts seem like they're going to be stuck in the undead realm for the next.
They'll come back for Emergence.
Maybe
they'll emerge at Emergence.
They'll emerge at Emergence.
But yeah, everything else seems to be. I guess the only other people, no Eric Young on the card either. So because the Violent by Design members for that match are Diener and Joe versus Motor City Machine Guns. And they don't have Eric Young like in the background or on the side or anything like that.
That is interesting. Yeah.
So there are some bigger names that haven't had matches announced, but it is a lot of matches that they've announced for these shows.
Interesting. So I mean, it's all good stuff. It's some of it clashes with what we're watching on TV, but it'll be good.
Yeah. And then these tapings will take us all the way up to August 12th. So this is basically a month of tapings here.
Yeah. Wow.
And then the next set of tapings is the night after Emergence in Chicago, which As I point out in the group chat, apparently the venue they are running for Emergence is a 6,000 person venue.
Maybe I don't know, man.
Yeah, apparently, like the MLW ran it in 2019 or 2020, right before the pandemic.
And do they do it smaller?
And they didn't release numbers, but they said it was by far their largest show of all time. And their previous largest show was 1,500 paying attendees. And so people said that most likely was like somewhere around like 2,500. So yeah, I guess 6,000's like for a concert or something.
Yeah, it's max capacity, but I'm sure
Yeah.
the side stages are going to be closed and stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was weird when like they said like the place is the Cicero Stadium, and I was like, geez, okay, they're running a stadium show.
Yeah.
Like, there's not many like 2,000 person venues that go by stadium.
That's very true, actually.
So that's why I was curious about the number, like what capacity this was.
Hey, if this crowd is hot and is a huge crowd for Emergence and even the tapings, then nobody can complain about AEW for going there.
That's true.
Again. Because then that means just Chicago is clearly the best place in America to have
for wrestling. Yeah,
like hands down. If Impact can have a 3,000 plus person show there, I think that's tells you everything.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out like when the last time they've been to Chicago was, because it's been so long since they like toured.
Yeah, it has been. I'm sure they did it in 2019.
Yeah. It is the first time since 2019 they ran Bound for Glory in 2019 in Chicago.
Oh, okay. Pretty cool.
Yeah. But not at this arena.
Okay. Or some smaller.
They ran Villa Park.
Yeah, which I wouldn't.
Which it doesn't seem like it's a venue. It's just a suburb.
So, they were in the town.
Yeah. So yeah, interesting stuff. But yeah, this could be a big, considering it's an Impact Plus show and not one of their big four. It's a very unique venue to have chosen.
Yeah, and I'd say capitalizing on this hot Chicago market apparently. So
yeah. So yeah, it definitely will be interesting to see how they do. Again, it is a Friday night show and not a Saturday night or Sunday night.
Yes, that's true.
So definitely will be interesting to see how they do numbers wise with the crowds. Hopefully hoping for the best, because it's what we want. We don't want companies to fail.
No, of course not.
So yeah. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure again to follow us on all our social medias at Deep Six Wrestling on Twitter, at Deep Six Wrestling on YouTube. Comment, leave some likes, leave some reviews, and we'll probably have this up on all the social media feeds, as well as throwing it out on Reddit, on the Impact Reddit. See if you guys have any questions or want to respond to our questions that we have that we normally throw out on the Impact Reddit. And we'll talk about them next week if we get any responses. So yeah, thank you guys for listening.
Thanks for listening.
And we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.